side to Stevenson. Up against Kaminsky. Fucking good in the ball.
Chantel all the way to the basket. Foul. Lays it in for two.
Hey, good morning, high school basketball fans. Welcome to the Upstate Hoops Podcast here on FingerLakes1.com. Sunday morning, February 21st, 2021. I'm Jim Sinicropi here inside the FingerLakes1.com Mechanic Street studio. We'll recap the second week of action, and I'll take a look at the standings in all the Wayne Finger Lakes leagues. We'll look at how things are kind of shaping up sectional-wise because we're halfway through the regular season. We'll look to the week ahead, which is the third week, which is when we're done. We're going to be 75% of the way through the regular season. And, of course, our updated power rankings. The Upstate Hoops Podcast and all our coverage of Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball is brought to you thanks to the support of Generations Bank, Little John and Barbie Orthodontics, and DeSanto Propane. So, was looking forward to this morning because, like I say, we're halfway through the season, and so things are really starting to shape up. And as I explained during some of our game night webcasts this week, league play, for instance, in the Finger Lakes East just kicked off Friday night. So teams are playing certain teams twice and certain teams once. So the beginning of the season, when you're playing these teams that you're playing twice the first time, that's not a league game. So that's true in the Finger Lakes West, boys and girls as well. And so the Finger Lakes West league openers were Wednesday night. The Finger Lakes East league openers were Friday night. So you have your overall records and now your league records. Wayne County a little different. They're playing everybody once and then having an end of league tournament. A Wayne County championship, boys and girls side. So the league standings that we're going to show you as we go throughout this morning's show will reflect all that. And it is a little confusing, but at this point we're full-on league play. So, for instance, I mentioned Friday night was the opener in the East for the boys and the girls, except for Wayne and Geneva, who played Saturday. That was a non-league game. And that was a pretty big one, league game or no league game. Every game's for sectional points. And really, at this point in the season, 50% way through this short season, every single game is huge. And some teams have built a cushion, so they're looking pretty good for sectionals. And again, another thing different about this season is it's not everybody goes to sectionals. It's top 8 in each class go to sectionals. So if you qualify for sectionals, you are already in the quarterfinals. And there's a lot of teams that are on the bubble going into the second half of the season. In other words, they're somewhere between a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seed. And really how they do this week is going to set them up for their position going into the final week. And really, we talk about league titles and all that. And it's nice to win a league title, but everybody's really focused on sectionals. And you got to get in it first. And every classification is a little different as well in terms of the number of teams that are in there and the percentage of teams that would qualify. And so we're going to go through that with you as well today. We really do have quite a big show to get to. And so let's kick it off. First, we're going to take a look at the week in boys basketball, Wayne Finger Lakes, and then run through all the league standings, and then we'll do the same thing with the girls. We'll look at the power rankings, and then we'll look at next week's schedule, which will be fun because there's so many games. I mean, every team's playing 3 games a week, some 4, and usually, during the course of a season, a team may have as much as 10 days off, around the holidays, and that's not the case. So we would prefer to have a normal, high school basketball season, of course, and it's a long season, usually late November right through till teams that get through to sectionals and 2 sectional finals, and sometimes states it can go all the way to early April. So not the case this year. Season will be over in 2 weeks. Well, 3 weeks. There's no states. So we got 2 weeks left of regular season, 1 week of sectionals. And like I say, I'd rather have things normal, but the way it is now, I mean, this is pretty exciting. You know, we'll take what we can get and make the best out of it. And what we do have is a really exciting season where every single game matters. And then we have the bonus of schools webcasting games. Almost every game is available to watch now. So if you've joined me for our Wayne Finger Lakes High School Basketball Game Night Live webcast, I mean, it's been so much fun. We're taking you to 10, 11, 12 different gyms during our webcast live, showing you all the action, getting close games that have been down to the wire, making sure we get the endings of those games, and it's been enjoyable. And never in any high school basketball season before have I personally seen so many different teams and so many different players. And so that's a bonus. And if you haven't tuned into our webcast, check us out this week, especially on one of those Finger Lakes East-West nights where there's, you know, as many as 16, 17 games going on at the same time. And also check out our pages on Finger Lakes One, whether it's the Game Night Live page or our nightly recaps, where we have links to all the live stream games coming up that night or the next day. And, you know, pull up a couple. I know I've talked to a lot of people that said they've had like 3-4 screens going. They'll have our Game Night Live on one screen with the audio up, and then a few 2 or 3 other games on other screens. And it's the type of thing that, you know, if you're a big college basketball fan and you have like ESPN Plus and you know, you have multiple games up on your TV and your laptop or your tablet, and you can do that now with high school basketball. So that's a pretty cool bonus too to what's happened this year. And most schools, I think, are going to continue doing this because a lot of them purchase the equipment to do it, and it's in place, and it's pretty seamless. It's worked pretty well for most schools. Most schools producing really quality streams, and it's not just for high school basketball. You know, obviously right now wrestling's in season, so all these wrestling matches or meets are on live stream, and that'll probably be the case in the spring. It was the case for soccer. You know, got high school football starting up soon. I mean, crazy times for sure. But right now we're going to be focused on basketball. And I want to take a look at the week that was in Finger Lakes, Wayne Finger Lakes boys basketball. And starting up there in the upper left, you see Monday night, Marcus Whitman Waterloo. And big win for Waterloo. I mean, they've looked much better in that game against Whitman than they've looked in some other games this year, that being their only win so far this season. But it was a win that we thought might make them turn the corner. But as you'll see as we go through the week, the rest of the week didn't go so great for the Indians. Big test for Minders on Monday night. Wayne coming in. Again, not a league game, but certainly a big barometer game for the Blue Devils. And Wayne won real easy. Just blew them out of their home gym, 26-point win. And one thing you take away from this week is Wayne's passing all the tests. Wayne's looking like the best team in the Wayne Finger Lakes. And we'll see where they shake out when we release the new power rankings at the end of the show. Newark at Penn Yan. This was a game that Newark was up in, and Penn Yan just pulled away late, and just another 0 for week for Newark. And then Geneva Palmac, this was the one that really made us wake up and say, look at Palmac. Like, they might be contenders for a sectional title in Class B1. They might be league championship contenders. I mean, look what they did to Geneva at Palmyra Macedon on Monday night. They walked out of there with a win, and this was a Geneva team that we're thinking is going to be up there contending with Wayne for the Finger Lakes East title, maybe a two-man race. And Palmac, Coach Trevor Sanders' bunch had different plans. And if you watch Palmac play, really fun to watch. They run great sets, very disciplined. Remind me a lot of the style of Marcus Whitman, which interestingly enough, those teams would play this week too. And then in the West on Monday night, you see an overtime win for Naples over Honeoye, a 7-point win. And the West is so balanced. This win by Naples snapped a 21-game losing streak for the program, and it really does look like they've turned a corner with Ryan Lester and Green and Rathbun and company for Coach Liebentrip, because that wasn't their only win this week, as we'll see. Moving ahead to Tuesday night, Lions all over Marion. North Rose Wolcott falls to Williamson. Williamson, a bit of a resurgence. Gananda, Clyde Savannah, one of the games on the Wayne County schedule that we really look forward to. And Gananda goes into Clyde Savannah High School and leaves with a 3-point win in a very close game. Hector Lopez, fast break layup with the time running down was the difference. And then Jada McKinney did get a shot up from the top of the key to tie it at the end of regulation, but obviously didn't go in. Gananda beats Clyde. Sodus and East Rochester. East Rochester with a win, and Romulus Midlakes in the West. Midlakes gets their first win since going over to the West. Again, that was not a league game, so they technically didn't get their first league win, but they did get the win over the Warriors in Clifton Springs. Wednesday night, Romulus beats Red Jacket. And as I go through these standings with West teams, I mean, it really is kind of amazing how balanced top to bottom this Finger Lakes West League is. As you see, Dundee beats Naples, so Naples couldn't make it a 2-game winning streak. And then we get into some of the East action with Penn Yan at Geneva. And Geneva, probably a little frustrated after that loss to Palmac, really put it all together, put up 88 points on a good Penn Yan team. And then you see Honeoye bounces back from that win to Naples against what we feel is one of the strongest teams in the Finger Lakes West in South Seneca. And they get a 2-point overtime win on their home court in Honeoye. Wednesday night was a great night. Minders Waterloo, always pretty fun when they get together. Waterloo didn't put up much of a contest for the Blue Devils, though, as Minders wins by 11. First time Minders beat Waterloo boys in 4 tries. Actually, this would have been 5 tries. They've lost both games the last 2 years after winning. I think it might have been a 19 or 21 game winning streak Minders had against the Waterloo boys, and then it just flipped, and now Minders gets the win. Newark and Wayne, pretty big game for Newark, still looking for their first win. This was probably the most impressive I've seen Newark look. A 14-point game. Newark had it close most of the game, but Wayne really got it together. Credit to Coach Thompson and what he's built in Wayne, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Palmac at Marcus Whitman now. Crazy times, if you ask me, to see the Palmyra Macedon Red Raiders in Marcus Whitman, and it went to 2 overtimes. Aiden Royston hurt in the first overtime, their defensive stopper. He wasn't there for the balance of the first overtime and the second overtime. And again, credit to Palmac going in and getting a win at a place like Marcus Whitman. Minders couldn't do that. It took double overtime. And just one of the better games that we've seen so far this year, going to double overtime. Paul Goodness really strong down the stretch, and Quinn Nolan making a couple big-time driving right-handed layups in the first overtime or second overtime, one of the overtimes, it was tough to cut into a 4-point deficit and tie the game. Then we move forward through the week. A Wayne County night on Thursday. Marion and North Rose Wolcott. North Rose Wolcott gets a win. Clyde with a big win against Williamson, and they won it pretty easily. It was a game where they could have slipped up after losing to Gananda previously in the week. Gananda over Sodus in a game that was much closer than we'd think it would be. But that's what happens when a lot of these Wayne County teams go into Sodus. Sodus is an upset special waiting to happen. And we've seen it before, but Gananda survives in that one. And then East Rochester Lions. This was a game that Lions won by 14 points at the Atwood Gymnasium, but it was a tie game in the third quarter. Or maybe a 1-point game. It was a one-possession game in the third quarter, and still a tight contest early fourth quarter. It wasn't till late that Lions pulled away. Now, credit to East Rochester. They looked good in this game, a lot better than they did in their first couple of openers of the season. But it would be a game that you would have thought Lions would have had in control heading into halftime. But they do get the 14-point win. They remain undefeated. And, I think it was also a confidence builder for East Rochester. Friday night, another great night, to tune into our Game Night Live webcast with all the games going on. And this is just the boys' side. We'll get to the girls in a second. But you see Naples picking up another win, beating Romulus. And then HAC, as you'll see when we go through the standings, HAC flying under the radar here. They're in a pretty good spot right now, and we'll talk about that a little bit. 61-46 at Dundee. Dundee's Bradford team, pretty strong. HAC off to a great start at 4-1. Then you had Marcus Whitman at Geneva. And this is another one of those games that now Marcus Whitman did play Geneva last year as an independent as part of their schedule. Great chance for extra sectional points and a risky move for Geneva. A2 versus a C1 team, so Marcus Whitman with a chance to pick up 7 sectional points if they were to win it, and Geneva would lose as many if they had lost. But really impressive comeback by Geneva in the past 2 games since that loss to Palmyra Macedon. They beat a good Marcus Whitman team handily, 24-point win. And then on the boys' side in the West, South Seneca, a defending home court in a tight game. South Seneca's had some really tight games so far this year. They lost at Honeoye in overtime, but really getting some good experience in these close games and really doing well, coming out of things well here as they secure the victory against Bloomfield in a game that could have gone either way down the stretch. Waterloo Penn Yan. Now, really must-win game here maybe for Waterloo, you think. And really for Penn Yan, too, as we talk about the sectional breakdown of it not being an open sectional, where only the top 8 seeds make it. A game like this against a couple teams with a losing record getting towards the middle of the season is a must-win game. And Waterloo had it. It was an amazing Oliver Connolly shot with time running out, a banked-in three-pointer fadeaway, and a 62-61 win for Penn Yan. Huge win for Penn Yan. Devastating loss for Waterloo. And it was a loss that spilled over onto social media the next day. And it really wasn't a good look. And a lot of people I know were looking at that thread. I won't go into details, but I will say this. I wouldn't put this on Tim Darnell. A lot of people, I think, are saying, coaching is the issue. Tim Darnell's a good coach. I don't know if you remember last year, but Waterloo went to the sectional final under Tim Darnell. Waterloo fans remember the last time the boys have been to a sectional final? They had a chance to win. I wouldn't blame the coach. I think I know Tim Darnell to be a really good coach. And it's unfortunate that a lot of the strides that were made last year And I'm not talking about wins or losses. I'm talking about culture, expectations in Waterloo. I just personally don't think Tim Darnell is the issue in Waterloo. And it's also interesting to note all the success that like the Waterloo girls are having recently. And really a lot of Waterloo athletics, different sports as a whole. Thanks. I think Crystal Jensen, the athletic director at Waterloo, I think she's in her third year maybe now, maybe fourth. I think she's doing a great job. But what happened on social media, for the public to see on the day after that Waterloo Penn Yan game, is not helping anything. Not helping anything. And I think when Waterloo is good, that the Finger Lakes East is great. It's the past couple of years, the atmospheres in the gym in Waterloo have been great. And, the sectional final last year between Waterloo and Geneva, 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning at the Blue Cross Arena. I mean, it was just great. I want to see Waterloo be successful. And I think Tim Darnell is lucky to have him in Waterloo. So moving on now, Minders and Newark. That's always become a huge rivalry game, and a situation where Newark really still looking for their first win here on February 19th on Friday night. And credit to Minders, Newark had somewhat control of this game late, and Jared King scored 9 of his 12 points in the last 2 minutes of the game. Nick Jones really, really strong in this one. Really all week, Nick Jones has stepped up. And that's what this Minders team needs is some of these guys who've been on this roster for several years to step up and lead like seniors. And they did in Newark on Friday night, and they got the win. And Minders is in a really good spot. Minders was a team coming into the season that, with this top 8 only going to sectionals, playing in a really tough league, that if they didn't come to play and got off to a slow start, their season's in jeopardy, sectionals in jeopardy, but that hasn't been the case. And as you'll see when we go through the standings, Minders is in a really, really good spot. Red Jacket at Mid-Lakes. Red Jacket gets a win. And these Friday night games were league games, as were the Wednesday night for the West, but these were the league openers for the East as well. So Red Jacket bouncing back after a little bit of a rough start to look good this week. And then this was the game that we were all waiting for on Friday night. Wayne at Pelmac. Pelmac had beaten Geneva. Pelmac had beaten Marcus Whitman in overtime. And now they were going to get Wayne. And we were going to see how good Wayne was. And also a real test to see where Pelmac stood. And as you can, that score is actually wrong. It should be reversed. It was 62-35. Wayne with the victory. So Wayne, it was and from the start, Marcus Whitman or Pelmac had single digits mid-second quarter in this game for points, and they hold them to 35 on the game. And Wayne's 2-3 zone defense tough, and just really. I believe Pelmac's a really good team, and for Wayne to win like that really says something about this iteration of the Wayne Eagles. And then on Saturday we had some games, and they keep coming. Honeoye beats Mid-Lakes. South Seneca beats Dundee on a Kenyon Russ buzzer beater. It wasn't a buzzer beater. It went in with like 0.4 seconds left, but tie game. He hits probably a 22-footer to give him the win. And we've had so many late game heroics throughout the first 2 weeks of this season on both the boys and girls side. And that was another one. And then Red Jacket, like I said, strong week beating Bloomfield. But the one game I haven't mentioned from Saturday yet, Geneva Wayne. Again, Geneva really bouncing back after their lone loss, playing great, heading into Wayne, clash of the Titans in the Finger Lakes East. Devin Martin, Mason Blankenberg, and as you can see, Wayne wins again. And it wasn't as easy as a Palmac win by any means. As a matter of fact, it was Geneva had the lead in the second half. But as great teams do when it comes down the stretch, they kind of pull it together and keep their composure and pull out the win. And that's what happened there. Big win for Wayne yesterday in Wayne. Big week for Wayne. They passed all tests, starting with a road trip at Minders and winning, and then hosting Palmac and winning, and then this really highly anticipated game with Geneva where that they won. So, I mean, a lot of games every week, and so let's see now where we stand in each league. Not only looking at league standings for the purpose of looking at the league standings, but you're going to see we're going to get a really good barometer of where teams stand as far as sectionals go right now. Because remember, we're 2 weeks away from sectionals. We're halfway through the regular season, but we're only 2 weeks away from sectionals. So let's start with the Finger Lakes East boys. And there you go, Wayne up top. Only 1-0 in the league, 6-0 overall. And as far as league standings, you got the 4 1-0 teams and the 4 0-1 teams, because Friday night was the only game of league play so far. And then you have Geneva, Minders, and Penn Yan, all 1-0. So as far as the league goes, despite Wayne's 6-0 start and wins over Geneva and Minders, that Palmac win was the only league game for Wayne so far. But what I want you to look at here is the yellow fields, the classification, the points, and the seed. So it's really starting to shape up, and what you want to see in that seed category is a number of 8 or lower, because that's what's going to happen for you to qualify for sectionals. So let's look at Wayne, for example. 31 points, 6-0. And a number 2 seed right now in B1. Now, there's 14 teams in B1, so that means 8 are going to make it, 6 aren't. I think Wayne's going to make it at this point. I mean, almost a lock. But let's look down a little further at Palmac. Despite their great start to the season, they're a 5 seed. That's great. They're looking good. But on the bubble, they need to continue to win games and accumulate points. There's other teams in B1 like Batavia, Livonia, Hornell, and other East teams too, like Waterloo and Newark, who, as you can see, are on the outside looking in. But there's no saying that Waterloo can't come out next week and win 3 games and be on the right side of the bubble again. I mean, Waterloo can contend for a sectional championship for sure. With Kyle Saluka on the team, they can beat anybody if he's hot. Newark, on the other hand, as you can see, has more work to do. They're currently a 13th seed out of a 14-team bracket, and at 0-6, they're going to essentially have to win out from here. And it's a little perplexing. Although this is something that can happen in the Finger Lakes East, it's perplexing because Newark has some great players, and especially on that front line like Isaiah Camp and Rayshawn Howard. But in the East, they've lost close games. It's not like they've been blown off the court. They've lost close games, but they find themselves at 0-6, and with just 2 weeks left in the regular season, it's unlikely that we're going to see Newark in sectionals this year. And that's disappointing because we do love to see as many Wayne Finger Lakes teams as we can go deep into sectionals. So that's B1 as far as the East goes. But you look at Geneva, they're an A2 school this year. At 4-2, currently a 6 seed, firmly on the bubble, and it's a different class of teams in Class A2 with Monroe, East, High and Pittsford Sutherland. And when I say firmly on the bubble, you can relax a little bit, Geneva fans, because in Class A2, there's only 9 teams. So 8 of them are going to get in, and only 1's going to get out. And there's 2 winless teams in the standings of A2 right now in the 8th and 9th position. So Geneva fans, I think you're looking pretty good to get into sectionals. But not only getting in, you want home court advantage because, like the number 1 seed, if they keep winning, they'll be the home team for every single sectional championship game, including the sectional championship. So you look at Wayne up there. I mean, they could host on their home court the sectional championship game. And Geneva's got some work to do if they want to be in that position. But it will make a big difference, I think, playing a sectional championship game at home, fans or no fans, for a lot of reasons. That is an advantage. So let's look at the B2 teams in the Finger Lakes East. Minders and Penn Yan. The Minders off to a great start. They're a 6 seed. Penn Yan, despite being 2-4, got some nice wins, and they are an 8 seed. And there's 13 teams in Class B2. That means that 5 teams won't make it. 8 teams will. But the thing about B2 is kind of ridiculous. Is who's in there? The good teams. You got North Star Christian, CG Finney, World of Inquiry, and then Wellsville, of course, is usually a perennial team in the same class as Minders and Penn Yan. They ended Minders' season last year down in Wellsville. But why does B2 have to deal with a really good North Star Christian team? Or, again, another school in CG Finney that moves around? Like, why North Star Christian in B2? It seems unfair. And you know what's not going to be great? Is if a Minders or Penn Yan advances to a sectional final, they got to go to play in North Star Christian's bandbox of a gym just because the placement committee in Section 5 decided that this team who has been in A last year is now in B2 when they've reloaded their roster with talent. Got one of the best players in Section 5 in Ryan Garwood. It just doesn't make any sense. It's unfair. That being said, it is what it is. If Minders wants to, and Minders is a team that, has accumulated sectional titles over the past 30 years at a clip much higher than other schools. They find themselves, off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly where, but they got about maybe 7th or 8th most sectional titles in all of Section 5. And they have a team that could win another one this year, especially paired with other schools of their size, but they're going to have to go through North Star Christian. And it just doesn't seem fair. It seems arbitrary. In a season where there are so many inequities or kind of situations that lend themselves to certainly not be normal, but to be a little unfair. I don't think this one necessarily had to be this way. I just don't think North Star Christian, from what they've done over the past 10 years with that program, and they've been all over the place. They've been in C. I've seen North Star Christian end teams season in Class C, whether it's Gananda in a sectional final, Lions in a sectional final, or a state play-in. They've been B before, and they've been A. Well, now, I'll throw them in B2, and just doesn't seem right. I know their coach, can be pretty vocal about what class he feels that they should be in, but let me tell you something. They're an A school. They should be an A every year. But enough about North Star Christian. You'll see there as well, Marcus Whitman, C1. Now, Marcus Whitman could have played in the West. They could have won every game. Maybe they wouldn't have won every game, but they would have been heavy favorites in almost every game after playing the independent schedule last year. But they're in the East, so you'll see they're a 6 seed right now in C1. C1 has 16 teams. Half of them won't make it. And Marcus Whitman's really challenged themselves by coming to the East and created a situation where, and again, the decision to come to the East was made before the season format was going to be decided. And I personally don't think that Coach O'Connor and his Whitman Athletic Director Paul Leahy would have done anything different. They've never been afraid to challenge themselves, but they put themselves in a situation where they are playing in a really difficult league, and getting sectional points, enough sectional points, to be one of those top 8 teams is going to be a challenge. So they had a great start at 3-0, and then they lost 3 straight, and now they find themselves a 6th seed in C1 with teams like Pembroke and Avon ahead of them, among others that we'll see in the other leagues. So every game for Marcus Whitman going to be big. Any win they can pick up. The one thing they do have going for them playing in a bigger Finger Lakes East league is that they're playing against schools in bigger classifications, and so that means that they get more points for a win and less points for a loss. But nonetheless, you still got to get the wins, and they did get some nice wins early in the season. You know, they beat Minders in Marcus Whitman. They're going to need more of those over the next 2 weeks to make sure they stay in the top 8. They're on the good side of the bubble now, but going to need to pick up probably 3 more wins the rest of the way. Of the 6 games they have left, they're probably going to have to win half of them to remain on the good side of the bubble. Now let's look at the West. And this is pretty cool. So look at the top 4 teams in the West right now. They're all on the good side of things, and the rest of the teams kind of, I don't want to say out of it, because you look at Romulus down there at the bottom in Class D2, 10 seed. They certainly, and again, same situation as Marcus Whitman, smaller school playing bigger schools, more sectional points. They can get on the good side of things, especially with only 12 teams in Class D2. Some good teams, though, Avoca, Prattsburg, Elba, Jasper, Troutsburg. But Romulus can do it. And if you look at those bottom 5 teams, too, the other team, Bloomfield, at an 11 right now, I think they could have a good second half of the regular season, qualify for sectionals. And then the teams at the top here, Red Jacket, really big week for Red Jacket after a slow start. And they're 3-0 in the league. Honeoye, 2-0 in the league with that overtime win against South Seneca. And I've really been high on South Seneca. That overtime loss at Honeoye, kind of big one for South Seneca. But, you know, South Seneca's looking good as a 3 seed in D1. Honeoye's the 1 seed in D1. Honeoye is the number 1 seed in D1 at 4-1 right now. And D1's a 12-team classification. So both those teams looking really strong to be the top 8 of 12 teams. Fillmore's in D1. Wheatland Chiley's in D1. And then you got the C2 schools of HAC, Naples, and Dundee. You know, both Naples and Dundee, they're going to have to win probably 4 of their last 6 games to be a top 8 team in C2. Cal Mum's a C2 team. Campbell Savona, York in C2. 17 teams in C2. So less than half are making it. And then Red Jacket in C1, again with the Marcus Whitmans of the world. So I don't think there's anybody out there. And Red Jacket and Marcus Whitman met in the sectional finals last year. Red Jacket graduated a ton of people from that team. Marcus Whitman got the bulk of those players back. And I don't think anybody would argue that Marcus Whitman isn't a better basketball team right now than Red Jacket. But who's got an easier road to sectionals? Whitman in the East or Red Jacket in the West? Right now, Whitman's a 6 seed. Red Jacket will be a 7 seed. So these are the things that are going to be playing out over the next few weeks. And I did mention off the top, HAC. HAC right now is a 3 seed in C2. Harley, Allendale, Columbia. Max Brown is a player who you're going to hear a lot of the next 2 weeks. They're 4-1. HAC and C2 looking good for sectionals. The Wolves. So the Finger Lakes West, a lot of times here on Finger Lakes 1, we treat the Finger Lakes West as second-class citizen status, with some of the great teams at the top of Wayne County and the Finger Lakes East just being such a really competitive, tough league with bigger schools. But look at the Finger Lakes West right now. Got a 1 seed and 2 3 seeds if the season were end today, and 4 teams going forward into sectionals. And I really like South Seneca and Honeoye in D1 as contenders, and got to take a closer look at HAC over the next week and really see if we can evaluate what's going on there at HAC. So, I mean, are you seeing what I'm seeing here? We're halfway through the regular season. It's almost like the postseason started. Every game next 2 weeks is going to be super important. So let's look at Wayne County. Lions, I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to qualify for sectionals in C1. Number 1 seed, 5-0. Gananda, 3 seed. Again, Marcus Whitman's in C1 as well. Gananda's in C1. Those two teams met in the semifinals last year. And again, if they were to meet this year in sectionals, Marcus Whitman would likely be the favorite. I wouldn't say an overwhelming favorite, but they would be the favorite. Yet Gananda's a 3 seed in C1 right now. And they're looking to win a lot more games. They were upset by East Rochester at home. A huge win for East Rochester. Not really too devastating of a loss for Gananda, because you know that Gananda is going to win these games in Wayne County and qualify for sectionals. It's not such a sure thing for Marcus Whitman in C1. Williamson, 3-2. They're in B2 along with Minders and Penyan. And hey, guess what? They're a 5 seed right now. So even Williamson probably has an easier road to sectionals than Minders or Penyan does. I don't think Williamson is as good as Minders or Penyan. It's not a shot at Williamson either. I think what they're doing is great. I think it's great that they're 3-2 and a 5 seed. And then East Rochester in C1, along with Lions, Gananda, Marcus Whitman and company, Red Jacket, had a great week this week. After a slow start in week 1, they're 3-2 and currently right smack dab at that final spot at the 8 seed. Clyde Savannah in C2 with Cal Mum and company. They're in at 6 at 3-2. And then so does North Rose and Marion. Slim to none there to get into the top 8 at this point. As you can see, they got 2 wins between the 3 teams. But look at Wayne County. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams right now on the good side of the sectional bubble. I mean, that's fun, I think, talking about these scenarios. Some inequities. But it is what it is, and it's going to play out on the basketball court. And if Marcus Whitman can qualify for sectionals and get some wins in the East, we're looking at some really fun potential sectional matchups. Lions Marcus Whitman, Gananda Marcus Whitman. So good stuff, good stuff. And then I remember in Wayne County, after the regular season, they're playing a tournament. So we might get a Wayne County championship game between a Clyde and Lions, or a Gananda and Lions, or a Williamson. So, or in East Rochester. So Wayne County is really kind of turned out to be pretty good this year. And we're already almost 45 minutes into the show, so we're going to go to the girls' side of things and take a look at what happened in the girls' week 2. And that started out on Monday night. Again, one of those big East-West nights where there's so many games on the schedule. And the Honeoye girls didn't have a program this year, or last year. But they come back. Gabby Trippi with a triple-double against Naples. South Seneca girls are unbelievable, the resurgence that they've had this year in terms of that old school, just blow them out, hectic, in your face, up and down. And they're doing it without girls that are physically imposing. They don't have Emily Lavarnway. They don't have Jade Parsons. They do have Logan Shawless. They do have the Fletcher sisters. Chloe Shawless, I believe, is on the team, but it's got that vibe of 3-4 years ago when excuse me, they made these great runs to the state Final Four. So it's exciting. I know there's a lot of people in Ovid and Southside and Seneca County that are excited about it. A lot of people in Marcus Whitman excited about the girls team with Liz Royston taking over and having some great success early. They had a big win at Romulus. The Palmac girls, after a rough start, got things back in cruise control. Cruise control, I mean, they're playing the way we thought they'd play. The Penn Yan girls, though, look to be a next level this year. Like, they've elevated things from the past few years. And that's because they got a lot of upperclassmen, a lot of great athletes, whether it's Haley Anderson or the Harrison sisters. Good team in Penn Yan for sure. And then the Minders girls. Good week for the Minders girls. And we're going to look through the sectional implications for these teams as well. And you'll see where Minders sits on the girls' side. 50-31 win at Wayne. Pretty good. And then Waterloo Mid-Lakes. This was the game of the year in girls basketball so far. And Mid-Lakes didn't disappoint. They held home court. They firm on their home court. But down the stretch in the fourth quarter, this Waterloo team was just too much. This Waterloo girls team is a state caliber team that is not going to have a chance if they win sectionals to try their luck at states. But very young. Will be strong next year too, but right now, undoubtedly the best team in the Wayne Finger Lakes Girls Leagues. Tuesday night, you got Wayne County girls action. That Clyde-Gananda game was an instant classic. If you didn't see it, Ashlyn Rattray hits a corner three-pointer with about 14 seconds left to give her team ultimately the lead, the game winner. Huge win for Clyde Savannah girls who continue to win, looking great. East Rochester girls are looking fantastic as well behind Zoe Zoots and Samantha Lewis. The North Rose Woolkit girls are winning behind Alicia Waterman, one of the better players in girls basketball right now in the Wayne Finger Lakes. And then Lions beats Red Creek, kind of starts to get their season going, but as you may have seen, their season now put on pause due to a case of COVID not on their team, but because of contact tracing. They got to shut it down for 10 days. They'll play again on February 27th, and I'm not sure how that works for sectional points or make-up games. Well, how many games can they make up? There's not much room to make up games. Are they going to play in the last week of the season? Are they going to play 6 games in 1 week? I'll try to do some research and find out where that stands. But really, that's the worst case scenario, and I feel horrible for the girls in that program and Coach Bassett. But that's the world we're living in right now, and I just hope that they have a chance to come back on February 27th and have a chance to earn enough sectional points to get back into that tournament and C1 on the girls' side. Wednesday night, Red Jacket goes into Romulus, gets a win on the girls' side. Marcus Whitman, another win, and a pretty good HAC team. Elijah Nicosia, really good player. And then South Seneca girls, 49-9. So he had Honeyway put a 48-23 win on Naples on Monday. They come back and visit the Jack Guyton Arena on Wednesday, and South Seneca holds them to 9. 40-point win. The Dundee Bradford girls, I think, are the team that is closest to being on par with South Seneca. They were supposed to play Saturday. It was postponed. I'm not sure why. It was rescheduled, but Dundee Bradford, South Seneca, that game is going to be a battle. As you can see, Dundee put it on Naples earlier in the week. And then, of course, the Waterloo girls rolling over Minders 65-18. Minders had a ton of turnovers, and, Waterloo looked strong. And I think Coach Anderson and the Lady Blue Devils are going to try to shake that one off and move on. Wayne and Newark went to overtime in an entertaining game in the Rose City on Wednesday night, and once the overtime started, it was all Wayne. Penn Yan girls over Geneva, and Pelmac girls beat Mid Lakes by 9 in a huge game for Pelmac to kind of, I don't want to say assert dominance, but solidify their position as one of the teams along with Waterloo and Mid Lakes at the top of the Finger Lakes East. So big win, real big win for Palmyra Macedon at home against Mid Lakes. Then moving on, you got North Rose squeaking one out against the rival Red Creek. Gananda all over Sodus. And Bloomfield with a nice win against Red Jacket. Friday night action, Dundee Bradford girls over HAC. Romulus girls with a win over Naples. South Seneca 43, Bloomfield 19. South Seneca, like I say, continuing on, looking dominant. Marcus Whitman Red Jacket, Whitman girls with a win in a bit of a West rivalry game. And then Palmac taking care of business against Wayne. Waterloo taking care of business against Penn Yan, but good showing by Penn Yan. And as we move through into sectionals, that's just a 12-point win for Waterloo, and Penn Yan was hanging around a little closer than that for a lot of the game, but Waterloo able to get it done. But Penn Yan, Mid Lakes, Palmac, Waterloo, good basketball teams. Newark, Minders with a big win, good free throw shooting down the stretch. Freshman Mandy Verke made 4 in a row down the stretch of that game. Or it might have been a horrible loss, really, for Minders' sectional hopes. But they do beat Newark, and then we don't have the scores there from yesterday in Wayne County, but Clyde beat Williamson, and Our Lady of Mercy in AT School beats East Rochester pretty handily. So yeah, it's a lot of action there. We're going to do the same thing now with the girls that we did with the boys. We're going to check out and see how they stand standing-wise and sectional-wise. And so let's start with the Finger Lakes East girls. Now, Waterloo is listed on the site as a B2 team. I've got to just double-check that because I thought they were classified as B1, but perhaps, they're still listed at B2 on the official website, so that's what they got to be, right? And if that's the case, that's bad news for Minders and Penn Yan, because they're 5-0 and they're the top seed. And then you look at B1, Palmac, despite losing to Waterloo, the top seed. They won every other game. And Mid Lakes, the 2 seed in B1. Moving down further, Minders, just on the wrong side of the bubble at 9 seed, but they got Geneva coming up Tuesday. Geneva struggled. They're in A school. That's a chance for Minders to pick up 6 points there with that win. And I think Minders is 3 wins they need. So they need 3 wins probably in the next 2 weeks to get into sectionals. Something to look at there, obviously. And then Penn Yan, a 3 seed in B2, looking a little more of a sure thing than Minders in B2. The Wayne girls on the good side of the bubble right now, even at just 1-4, they're a 7 seed. And the Newark girls as well, same type of situation, just 1-4, but enough points to have them at the 8 seed right now. And it's a little different on the girls' side than the boys' side. Class B1, there's 10 teams. Class B2, there's 11 teams. So outside of Geneva, you could see a situation where the other 8 teams in the Finger Lakes East Girls Leagues all make sectionals. If you look at it right now, 7 of them are in. The only one that would be out if the season ended today would be Minders. So, and you also see, if you're concerned about league standings, you got 4 teams tied for first at 1-0 right now. So kind of wipe the record clean and let's go at it. But I would say, from what we've seen, Waterloo prohibitive favorites to win the league. So, whoops, hit the wrong button. Okay, so now that's the East. Let's go to the West. Dundee, Bradford, South Seneca, and Whitman. But South Seneca, Dundee, Bradford on a collision course for when they meet. Marcus, Whitman, Honeoye, Bloomfield, even Romulus and Red Jacket have all looked better this week. But I don't think that they have what it takes to compete with South Seneca or Dundee. I don't know if Marcus Whitman does. But Marcus Whitman does have a senior in the middle of their defense and offense, Matty Ryan, name we said a lot in Finger Lakes 1 for the past few years. So I wouldn't count them out for sure. But let's look sectional-wise. You got Dundee in C2, currently a 2 seed, and you got South Seneca in D1, currently a 1 seed. Marcus Whitman on the good side of things in C1. Honeoye on the good side of the bubble right now in D1. D1 has 13 teams. C2 has 17 teams. And C1 has 15 teams. Got to be top 8. Romulus currently in D2 with 11 other teams, the 9 seed, but it wouldn't take much for the Lady Warriors to get on the good side of things over the next 2 weeks and qualify and maybe make a sectional run in D2. Some good girls basketball teams in D2. Elba, Prattsburg, Avoca, historically pretty strong despite being D2 schools. And then as far as South Seneca in D1, they're going to be looking at Arkport, Batavia, Notre Dame, some of the old familiar suspects from sectional runs past for South Seneca. So, wow, we're already, as we when we're looking at the East again, we want to look at Wayne County girls. East Rochester, they lost Our Lady of Mercy yesterday, but I'm not going to say anything negative about that. That's a good girls basketball team in Class A. But other than that, East Rochester has looked dominant. And my money would be on East Rochester to win this league from what I've seen so far. But Clyde Savannah just has that can't-lose attitude, pulling out close games, looking good. Young team in Clyde still. But you look, they're number 1 seed in C2 right now. East Rochester's a number 2 seed in C1. North Rose Wolcott's a 4 seed in B2. North Rose Wolcott girls are 4-1. I don't know if you heard me right, but the North Rose Wolcott girls basketball team is 4-1 and currently a 4 seed in B2. Lions, and you can see why this season on pause thing is devastating for Lions. They got off to a rough start to their season. They rebounded with 2 wins, and now they're on pause, sitting there at the 7 seed in C1. And other teams will pass them if they're not playing. And if they're not able to make up those games, they might not be able to accumulate enough sectional points. And girls, different than the boys, you don't lose points when you lose a game. You don't lose sectional points when you lose a game. You only gain them when you win. So that even, I believe, hurts Lions further as far as sectional points go. So looking forward to them getting back on the court. Gananda girls, after a horrible start to their season, got 2 nice wins this week, and they find themselves back on the bubble in C1. Williamson girls, Katie Newby and company, 10 seed, despite just having 1 win, they are in position to have a good week, get on the good side of the bubble. Red Creek and Izzy Wilbur, C2, they need some wins. They can get into sectionals. So a lot to be done here for these Wayne County girls, but really East Rochester, Clyde Savannah looking like locks at this point. North Rose Wolcott, the surprise of the league this year, maybe, perhaps, and Lions season, sadly, on pause, hoping that February 27th gets here soon and that they can make up a lot of those games. So, wow, we're already an hour in. I don't think we should waste any more time after looking at the results from last week and see how they affected the power rankings. Start with the girls. Waterloo number 1. Nobody surprised by that. Palmac has earned themselves back to the 2 spot. Last week's poll had Mid Lakes at 2. Penn Yan, really impressive in a losing effort to Waterloo, moves up to 3. And Mid Lakes, after losses to Waterloo and Palmac this week, drops to 4. East Rochester, 5. Wayne County girls team being that high in our power rankings, I want to say, is a little unusual, but they're at 5. And then now you got the situation where you got, a 2-win Minders team out of the East higher than an undefeated South Seneca team that's looked great. In normal years, you'd have some crossovers. It would be easier to judge. But yeah, when these power rankings, you always ask yourself 2 things. Number 1, who would win if they played each other? Who's the better team, period, regardless of records. But then you do have to take into account the records and the wins and losses and try to evaluate. So the Minders girls, pretty good week this week with a couple wins, one really bad loss to the number 1 ranked team Waterloo. They come in at 6. I think a little better position than maybe some people thought they'd be in halfway through the season. And then South Seneca at 7, pretty high rank for a Finger Lakes West team in our rankings, and then Dundee Bradford right behind them. Would love to see these 2 teams play. Clyde Savannah, we talked about their great season. They're coming in at 9. Wayne coming in at 10. Big overtime win against Newark. Marcus Whitman, 11. North Rose Wolcott, 12. The Newark Lady Reds, 13. And again, they got 1 win on the season, but you got to ask yourself, what would happen if Newark played Lions, North Rose, Marcus Whitman? It's a combination of things. They're at 13. Lions on pause at 14, and Bloomfield at 15. That's the girls. I know you got, and before I go here to the boys, I know that the question is, who's number 1, Lions or Wayne? They were supposed to play each other this season in an out-of-league game. Credit to Wayne for being willing to do this. I know a lot of people won't play Lions from bigger classifications, but Coach Thompson and Wayne, they had it set up. Obviously not going to happen. Disappointing because, as you'll see, they're, in our opinion, the top 2 teams in the Wayne Finger Lakes. And with the great week that Wayne had, checking every box against great teams like Palmac and Geneva and winning those games convincingly, combined with the fact that Lions is a smaller school and that they struggled at home against East Rochester, means that we have a new number 1. And we weren't sure if circumstances could arise that would cause Lions to drop out of number 1. But I think that the circumstances have arisen, and Wayne, in my opinion, and the opinion of everybody involved in this poll, is the number 1 team in the Wayne Finger Lakes right now. And I don't know what can be done from the next 2 weeks to change that. I mean, obviously Wayne would have to lose a game, right? If I think that might be all it would take. Lions, I would have to keep winning. I don't expect Lions, honestly, to lose a game in Wayne County this year. But again, this doesn't mean anything compared to those sectional points and seeds we were talking about earlier. But Wayne, this week, goes in as the number 1 team in our power rankings. Then you got Lions. Then Geneva, obviously, great, fun to watch, and a really solid week, except for the fact that they lost to Wayne. Now, they also lost to Palmac, Geneva. So, Geneva 2 losses at number 3. You say, what would happen if Geneva played Lions? I don't know. Right now, I think Lions might win. it'd be interesting to see. But either way, those are three good basketball teams at the top. And then, here you go, Minders climbing up the power rankings with a big week. I know that they got the depth and the talent to win a sectional title and to compete with the teams at the top of the East. They failed the test miserably against Wayne when they played. They'll play them again. Going to be interesting to see how Minders does against Geneva on Tuesday night. That's a game coming up. 3 and 4 in our power rankings. That's a big game. Chance for Minders to get some extra sectional points too, playing an A2 school. And a big game for Geneva too, obviously, if they're concerned with the standings in the Finger Lakes East. Pelmac drops to 5. Big win at Marcus Whitman in double overtime. But really stumbled against Wayne. Marcus Whitman boys at 6. Horrible week for Marcus Whitman fans. But they come in at 6 in Class C1 right behind them. Gananda. Pretty good week for Gananda. The Penyan boys. Now this is a difference between a 3-point shot going in off the glass at the buzzer and not going in. And the win and the loss in that Penyan Waterloo game. Penyan's 8. Clyde boys at 9. I mean, one of the things that we're going to talk about here throughout the remainder of the season is who's the player of the year in Wayne County? Is it Cam Chance for Clyde? Is it Tootie Smith? At Lions? Is it Andrew Gabbard, point guard at Gananda? Tough to make an argument against Cam Chance from what I've seen so far. And we've seen a lot of these games. If you get a chance, check out Cam Chance. If you get a chance, check out Cam Chance for Clyde. So they come in at 9. And then Waterloo drops to 10. Again, they beat Marcus Whitman. A lot goes in. That win gained them a lot as far as these rankings go. Because you'll see down further at 12 is Newark. They haven't won a game. So how can a team that's 0-6 be 12 in the power rankings? And this is the problem with the power rankings in the different leagues, especially in a year where we're not playing crossover games. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody out there that believes that Honeoye or maybe even Clyde would beat Newark if they played. So it's a combination of that, but still, you got to win a game. These power rankings are a combination of the play on the court and the eye test. So with that being said, great job by the Honeoye boys at 11, having a good week and winning that overtime game against South Seneca. And Newark comes in at 12, mostly based on eye test and the fact that they're in the Finger Lakes East. But they got to win some games starting immediately, like Tuesday night. South Seneca boys, great start to the season at 13. If they could have pulled off that win against Honeoye boy, they might even been top 10. East Rochester boys resurgent, and then tied at 15th, we got Red Jacket and HAC. Red Jacket a C1 team and HAC, I believe a C2 team. So there are your power rankings, and we're going to look now at the week ahead in Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball, week 3 of 4. And these games are super important. Every game's important. And I guess, this time let's start with the girls. Week ahead, Monday night, South Seneca at HAC on a road trip for South Seneca. Marcus Whitman going to... Wait a second. This isn't this week's schedule. Oh, well. Hold on a second here. Yeah, I thought that looked familiar. Let me get this off of here right away. And, yeah, fortunately we do have the boys' sketch. I'm going to have to go through the girls' schedule without the benefit of that graphic. So let's just look here at the girls this week. Starting with Monday night, Sodus is going to be at Lions. Or no, they're not. That season's on pause, so there'll only be 3 games in Wayne County on Monday night. East Rochester at North Rose Wolcott, big game. Marion at Clyde Savannah. Gananda at Williamson. Should be a competitive game. But that East Rochester North Rose Wolcott game, the premier game Monday night. Tuesday night, Red Jacket travels to South Seneca. Bloomfield at Naples. Romulus at Dundee. HAC at Honeoye. East, Minders at Geneva. Huge chance for the Lady Blue Devils to pick up some extra sectional points. Waterloo at Newark. Pelmac at Penn Yan. Should be a very competitive game on the girls' side. And then Wayne at Midlakes. Next night, Wednesday, North Rose Wolcott at Sodus. Clyde at East Rochester. That is going to be a fun one that you might want to pull up the stream for and check out. Williamson at Marion, and then again, still it was supposed to be Lions at Gananda, but that's going to be a game that hopefully can be made up. Thursday night, Honeoye at Romulus, Dundee at Bloomfield, Naples at Red Jacket, South Seneca at Marcus Whitman. Game of the night in the West there for sure. Lady Falcons traveling to play on Jim Tuck Court against Marcus Whitman in probably a bigger game for Marcus Whitman than South Seneca. But marquee game of the night in the West. Midlakes is traveling to Newark. Minders at Penn Yan. Now, they're a couple of B2 schools. Penn Yan beat Minders once this year. That was a non-league game. This one will be a league game. But more importantly is who gets the sectional points for the win here. Minders or Penn Yan, because both are going to be in need of those sectional points in Class B2. Huge game. Geneva's at Wayne. And then Waterloo at Pelmac, round 2. This one counts for league standings, but if there's an opportunity for Waterloo to get tripped up, this is it. Traveling to Palmyra Macedon. And then on the next night, supposedly the Wayne County tournament that we talked about kicks off already. Hopefully get some more details on that we can share with you during our nightly updates at fingerlakes1.com or on our Game Night Live webcasts. And so then you move ahead to Saturday night in the girls, a week from yesterday. Marcus Whitman at Naples, Red Jacket at Dundee, Bloomfield at Honeoye, Romulus at HAC, and then Penn Yan Midlakes in the East. Huge game. Newark at Geneva, chance for Newark to pick up some sectional points. Wayne at Waterloo, and then Pelmac at Minders. Opportunity for an upset there for Minders. Again, we talked about Minders needing to find wins where they can to get on the good side of the sectional bubble. They'll have to do that over the next 2 weeks. So now let's look at the boys' schedule for the week ahead. Starting out on Monday night. We'll be live at 7 p.m. for Game Night Live. As you can see, a pretty full slate for a Monday night where we have West teams playing with Wayne teams, which is a little different. Some of these are makeups. Lions is at Sodus. Sodus is like, you saw what they did with Gananda. They made it a game. It's a potential danger point for Lions. It's a place that they have struggled in the past. North Rose Wolcott at East Rochester, Clyde Savannah at Marion, Williamson at Gananda could be a good game. And then HAC, again, this is boys. HAC, that 4-1 HAC team at the one-loss South Seneca team, huge game in the West. Bloomfield at Red Jacket, big game for both teams. And then Midlakes at Dundee. Move ahead one night later, Dundee's in action again at Romulus. So is HAC hosting Honeoye, an equally big game as Honeoye's at the top of those standings along with South Seneca boys. South Seneca travels to Red Jacket, and Red Jacket right now is 2-0 in the league, first place. So you can see these are early week big games in the Finger Lakes West Boys League. Newark at Waterloo. I think it's safe to say on Tuesday night that the loser of this game is going to be out of the postseason. Both B1 schools. it's a pretty big game for pride as well as keeping your season alive. That'll be a lot of fun to watch. And again, those two have been schools that have really created quite a little rivalry over the past 2 seasons, without a doubt. As almost every East game is a rivalry game. Naples is at Bloomfield. Marcus Whitman at Wayne. This is one of those matchups that almost seems surreal. It almost seems like it is a crossover out of league game, maybe a holiday tournament game that just happened to come together. But it's a really big chance for Marcus Whitman to kind of right the ship that's kind of gone a little off course in week 2 and get week 3 started off. Because if they do lose this game, which, by the way, Wayne will be favored, obviously, in this game, but it just puts Marcus Whitman a little bit more behind the 8 ball in terms of sectional standings. If they can pull off a win there and upset, boy, that would be huge. But the way Wayne has looked lately, that's a tall order. That's a tall order. But it's a game to watch on Tuesday night for sure. Then Geneva at Minders. Really big chance for Minders to assert themselves as one of the top teams in the East, to solidify their postseason prospects. And for Geneva, it's a game that, well, they can lose it. They're in A2. There's only 9 teams in A2. That's not as important for postseason for them, but it certainly is very important as far as the league stands. But for Minders, it's a big opportunity game. And it's interesting to see if Minders can do it. You know, what plan will they put together to deal with Devin Martin in Geneva? And then also a very similar situation for Penn Yan going to Palmac for both those teams. Tuesday night's going to be big, important games throughout, especially in the Finger Lakes East. Wednesday and next week, Sodus is at North Rose Wolcott. East Rochester at Clyde should be a dandy. Marion at Williamson and Gananda at Lions. This is the one regular season game for Lions that I feel they have the best opportunity to get upset, to lose. And it could be a preview of the Wayne County Championship game coming up. As you can see as we move on, the Wayne County tournament, the postseason tournament, starts at the end of this week according to the schedule. Move ahead to Thursday night. Red Jackets at Naples, Mid-Lakes at South Seneca. That's weird, huh? Newark at Marcus Whitman. So let's say that Newark is 0-7 going into this game. They lose to Waterloo, they're 0-7. And then you got Marcus Whitman maybe loses to Wayne, and now these two teams meet. Newark at this point has nothing to gain or lose. Marcus Whitman would have everything to lose. Marcus Whitman needs to find wins in the Finger Lakes East to get into that C1 tournament, to potentially have to go to potentially the Atwood Gymnasium and face Lions at some point during those C1 playoffs, maybe a title game. Sectional championship game in the Atwood Gymnasium with no fans, Marcus Whitman Lions. It's definitely something different, but Marcus Whitman needs wins where they can get them. Romulus at Honeoye. Honeoye is going to want to continue their play, but Romulus boys can beat anybody in that league. Very balanced West. Palmac at Waterloo. And again, similar situation to Newark. You know, Waterloo's in, and they going to need to win most of their remaining games. They're going to need to go 4-2 over the next 2 weeks. And they got Palmac coming to town. Wayne at Geneva, round 2. This time it's for the league standings, where Saturday night it wasn't. And this time it's at the Panther Den in Geneva. Again, Geneva, it was a ball game until the very end. Geneva led. I think Geneva might have led it by as many as 7. I was watching that game on my phone. It was in Skinny Atlas. And pulled it up on my phone and was watching almost every single play. Wouldn't mind being home watching it on the TV, but on Thursday night, Wayne at Geneva, Bloomfield at Dundee, and then Penn Yan at Minders. A gigantic game for both teams. Are you following me? Catching the theme of this? How big these games are because it's a condensed season and the way that sectional qualification is taking place. It's almost like sectionals. It's almost like a World Cup soccer tournament where you go the round robin route and then you go into bracket play. We're in the round robin part right now, and every win is big. Round 1 of the Wayne County tournament on Friday night. Hey, that's what they say. We'll see how that looks. I love it. And then Saturday, Honeoye at Bloomfield, Geneva at Newark. Be a good one. Naples at Mid-Lakes, Minders at Pelmac. Remember, Minders beat Pelmac at Arthur L. Baker on a last-second three-pointer by Nick Jones. I'm sure that Palmyra Macedon is looking forward to a chance at redemption there. That'll be a tough one for Minders. HAC boys at Romulus, Dundee at Red Jacket, Waterloo at Wayne. If there's one way to turn things around for Waterloo, this is how the week sets up for them. So if you're a Waterloo Indian fan, you got to beat Newark at home, game 1. Then you got Pelmac at home. You're going to be looking a lot better if you're 2-0 for the week at that point. And then would come a chance to really turn things around by going to Wayne and potentially winning that game. That's how you right the ship if you're Waterloo. Win some games. Maybe go 2-1 this week. 3-0 it would be amazing for them as well. Be a lot more effective than posting on social media. Marcus Whitman at Penn Yan. That's a rivalry game. And again, that's one that Marcus Whitman Nation kind of needs at this point. But, Penn Yan's going to need the win too. So, look at that week we got ahead. Just great. Great. I'm excited. How could you not be excited? So, we've gone over again. I knew we would. There's just so much going on now that we have to. I look forward to getting back in the studio eventually. This all looks different, right? I'm in the FingerLakes1.com Mechanic Street studio. I want to get back to the main studio. Everything's looked a little different this year. In 2 weeks, we'll have our sectional preview episode, hopefully from our studio, hopefully with a panel. You guys haven't seen a lot of the normal cast and crew for Finger Lakes One Sports, but believe me, we've been talking about these games. We've been watching these games, and hopefully we'll be able to do our normal sectional preview show, which is usually pretty popular and pretty fun to do, where we kind of look at all the brackets and give our picks and look at the best chances for Wayne Finger Lakes teams to win sectional titles. But, man, I had a good time this morning trying to make sense of all this. I hope that you enjoyed it as well. I hope I clarified some things for you and kind of we can see what is really at stake coming up here over the next 2 weeks as we head closer to an abbreviated sectionals. So, yeah, I had a great time. Let's get into next week. Let's get some games going. Stay safe. Be precautious. Don't let your season be derailed by something foolish. And sometimes you can't. I'm not saying that every time that a team might have what happened to them happen to the Lions girls where their season goes on pause. It might not be anybody's fault. It's just the way things are. But you got to do what you can in terms of wearing the mask, avoiding situations where if you're a member of one of these teams or a coach of one of these teams, you got to be extra precautious right now. We've got 3 weeks to go. And it could be the difference between your season being over or hanging a banner in your gym in a ceremony, next November when things get back to normal. These sectional titles count as much as any other sectional title. So be careful, be safe. Let's get at it on the court. I want to see some good games this week. I'm pretty sure that we will. Thanks for joining us on the Upstate Hoops Podcast. Connect with us on Twitter at Finger Lakes One. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Our audio-only podcast is available on iTunes and Stitcher.com. Remember, if you want to check out the Game Night Live webcast, there's links on the homepage of FingerLakes1.com. Before the show goes live, you can subscribe to our channel on Twitch TV or look for the post on Facebook when the show goes live. But if you haven't checked it out yet, you should. It's a pretty exciting way to watch high school basketball for a couple hours on a weeknight or a Friday night or whatever night. But certainly check it out. Archived episodes of this podcast are available on our homepage at FingerLakes1.com, and this podcast airs weekly on Sunday night on Finger Lakes TV Spectrum Channel 1304, 1304. You can also find our show, live stream games, and local news, weather, and sports 24/7 on the free FingerLakes1.com Android or iPhone app. I'm Jim Sinicropi. Thanks for joining me talking high school hoops. I'll see you for Game Night Live Monday at 7, and I'll see you here back next week, Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Good luck, everybody. Play hard, and let's see some good basketball this week. Have a good one.